Episode 10, Chapter 9, Under the Sky So Blue. Chapter 9, Under the Sky So Blue.
Alright, I think that's about the entire story. Now let me just arrange it all in order.
Kraken sighed, glaring down at the single battered, bloody wizard ogre who had survived the mess in Gurgu by playing dead.
The light warriors came. You all did exactly as I told you. You waited until they were in that room, then jumped them from behind. And they kicked all your butts anyways, mostly because the girl muted you all. Correct.
The wizard ogre nodded nervously.
You were the only one who lived. And soon after that, you felt Carrie die, and as soon as you did, you warped back here before the good little girl felt you.
Kraken spat out the last 5 words with hatred.
So it was all for nothing. Well, so much for that. Now it's up to me. They'll be after me next.
Clutching a limb to his forehead, the fiend of water groaned.
Coming for me, damn them. They're just mortal, they can't kill me. But they killed Lich and Carrie. I can't think straight like this.
He glared at the wizard ogre.
What are you still waiting around here for? I can go.
The brute asked, relief washing over his features. Kraken frowned.
You thought I would punish you. Well, there's no reason to do so. It's not your fault you lost. You did everything I told you to. You just weren't good enough.
The wizard ogre started to thank his master, then stopped as a tentacle whipped across his neck, removing his head neatly.
Right then. That was just because I felt like it. Now, what to do, what to do?
Kraken thought frantically.
They're still in Crescent Lake. But they'll come to Onrak soon.
The fiend of water blinked, then grinned.
By ship. They have to travel by ship. They'll come to Onrak across the ocean. Across my domain. I'll sink the fools, and that will be that. They'll have to come that way, there's no other.
He frowned again.
No, wait. What if they find?
He broke off, muttering again.
Right, that would do it. Damn, they will go for it. Those blasted old men in the circle will tell them all about it. There's got to be something I can do.
His eyes swept across the wizard ogre's corpse, and he smiled again, slow and repulsive.
A trap. Another one. That one failed, but if I try again. And this time, no halfway measures. I'll send him.
Moving through the water, Kraken drifted down the halls of his sunken palace, towards a certain wing.
Now, where is he? I really do have to thank Tiamat for him one of these days.
Thinking back, the fiend of water remembered when they had discovered Lich's plight, and Tiamat had decided to gift not him, but the other 2 as well with a subordinate from her minions, the strongest of all of theirs. For Lich, a vampire, the ultimate form of the undead. For Carrie, a dragon of fire, one of the corrupted brood Tiamat had fought so hard for. And for Kraken, who had been first to join her this time, worst of all. A true horror. Finding the door, he pushed it open and glanced inside.
Ah, there you are. Master Kraken.
The fiend of water's greatest underling turned, hissing. This was not disrespect, his kind always hissed. They didn't seem to be able to manage any other tone.
You require something of me. Perhaps.
Kraken looked behind him to the other forms in the room, and raised an eyebrow in amusement.
Are you having fun with our friends from Marsh? The ones who accepted your blessing have learned.
The minion answered.
They will be ready soon. Good.
Kraken purred, remembering how the wizards of Marsh had come to him following Lich's defeat, more determined than ever to see the deaths of the light warriors. Kraken had never been one to pass down such willing recruits. Some of them had even asked for his blessing. Looking at them now, all color drained from their bodies to a dead white, only their eyes and the drops of water embedded in their foreheads glowing purple, Kraken smiled. They would be effective indeed, with his servants' increase in their spell knowledge.
Very good. I have a mission for you, and it might be good for you to take them along with you. A mission, Master?
The underling focused his eye even more on the Fiend of Water.
Against the Light Warriors. Correct. Well spotted.
Kraken confirmed.
They may have the strength to slay Lich and Carry, but any strength falters against your talents. That is, any strength except for mine. Of course.
The minion looked over the wizards of Marsh, both blessed and non.
They will probably require a few hours to rest and prepare, then we shall go. May I ask as to where we should warp, and as to specifics in our mission? The Ice Cave.
Kraken informed him.
Go there, and disperse the wizards throughout the cave. As for yourself, you know where the treasure we hid in that cave is. Go there. The Light Warriors will come to you. And when they do...
He chuckled disgustingly, and his greatest servant grinned as well.
It shall be done. All right, we're here.
Luke announced as the Light Warriors walked into the circle of sages for the second time.
About time, too.
Oric the dwarf grumbled.
You got back yesterday, didn't ya? They deserved some time to rest and recover.
Valish disagreed.
Especially young Vlad. It looks like it did you good.
Merton, the mage's trainer, raised an appraising eyebrow.
You seem much improved by your encounter, Vlad. Perhaps I am. But more importantly, our mission succeeded.
The black mage produced the glowing orb of fire.
The threat of Carry is gone, and half of our enemies are slain. Indeed. Well done, all of you.
Lucan nodded.
But now we must come to the remaining two fiends. Not only are they stronger than Lich and Carry, but it will also be much more difficult to even get to them. How's that work?
Drake frowned, thinking.
We'd go for Kraken first, and he's in the sea shrine off of Onrak, right? We'd just sail the Amphitrite there across the ocean.
He slowly broke off.
Oh. Exactly.
Arisham agreed grimly.
If you try and cross the waters to get to Kraken's turf, you'll be close enough to his center of power for him to tear that ship to shreds. And as for Tiamat, the only way to get to here is in the center of the Yanakurum Desert, which used to be most of the lands of Gaia and Lefane. Now, though, it's a total wasteland, and it's surrounded by mountains that it'd take you years to climb. There's no other way in there by land. I'm guessing that you have an alternative in mind, then?
Mary inquired.
Exactly.
Lucan glanced at the Lefanish woman.
Lashy. How much do you know about my people's culture, young warriors?
She asked. Luke and Drake both looked at each other, then turned to the mages.
Not much.
Vlad admitted.
Tiamat didn't leave much for the mages of Gaia to salvage. Although I think now that Merton knew more than he was letting on. Regardless, all we learned was that your civilization was far more advanced than the rest of the world. That you had even expanded into the sky, and created a floating palace for the element of air.
He paused.
No, there was something else. The legend of the Sky Warriors. Sky Warriors.
Luke blinked.
5 of Lefane's greatest warriors. Brave, but misguided.
Lashy explained.
When Tiamat rose, before the other fiends, it was in the Sky Palace. She quickly asserted her domination of the sky, and destroyed nearly all of our other works that partook of it. This included our pride and joy. The airships. Airships? Ships that fly.
Drake muttered.
There was an old guy in Elfland who'd tell me stories about them when I was a kid. Said they ran on magical stones that defied gravity. I thought it was just a story, though. It was not.
Lashy stated firmly.
Though most of them were brought down by Tiamat, one remained. The Sky Warriors took it, vowing to confront Tiamat. 1 week later, it was returned to us, completely intact and unharmed. Exploring it, we found 5 bats below deck. Nasty,
Luke remarked after a moment's thought.
What happened to them? They flew away. None know of their fate now.
Lashy shook her head.
After that, my people decided to hide the airship away where none could find it. Separating its power core, they were both concealed. Shortly after that, Tiamat destroyed most of our lands, and knowledge of the hiding places was lost. Until the prophecy. I get it.
Mary slowly grinned.
If we can find this airship, Kraken won't be able to keep us away, and we'll be able to get to the Yanakurum too. Exactly.
Kalabak, the sage of Crescent Lake, echoed Lucan.
Here's the bad news. The power core is in the ice cave. A frozen pit in the northern part of the country. Despite its proximity to the volcano, one step in and you're in a frozen hellhole. And many of the monsters there have absorbed its essence. This is sounding awfully familiar, and awfully bad.
Drake moaned.
It's the marsh cave's bigger, badder brother. That's a pretty accurate description, actually.
Valish agreed.
Don't worry, you fellas are bigger and badder now too. And hey, once you've got the core, the rest is easy. The ship itself is buried in the Ryakan Desert to the south. Compared to the cave, it's a cakewalk. All you gotta do is take the floater in there, and it'll bring the thing up, so you don't even have to dig. So, how do we get to this ice cave? More playing with the river system.
Luke guessed.
Yup.
Kalabak handed him another map.
There you go. That'll be all you need. Just trust in your own power, and you will succeed. It's all well and good to say that, but I'm glad I found these in the volcano anyways.
Luke tapped on his new armor and shield.
Is that it, then? Can we head back to town? We'll leave tomorrow, I guess. Actually,
Macgarison, the dragon sage, raised his voice.
There is one more thing. Once you have procured the airship, before you brace the fiend of water, my king, Bahamut, requests your presence. Bahamut? The king of the dragons.
Drake's eyes widened.
Indeed.
Macgarison nodded.
He, and the rest of my kind, now dwell on the Cardia Isles since their exile from our homeland. Bahamut sent word to me, having felt the deaths of the fiends of earth and fire. He wishes to meet you personally, perhaps to assist you in your mission. I'd call that a side trip that's worth the time.
Mary noted.
Guys. Sounds good to me.
Luke agreed, and the other two nodded.
Now we've got even more reason to want to survive the ice cave, Like we needed more reason.
Drake snorted.
Still, that should help. Thanks for the word. Just doing my job.
Macgarison shrugged.
Good luck to you all, then. We'll need it.
Vlad muttered, chuckling and shaking his head.
But we should be used to this sort of thing by now. Career hazard. Knew I should have been a lawyer.
Drake sighed.
Oh well, bit late for a change in careers now. Why do I not want to think about how good you would have been at knowing the loopholes in laws and exploiting them?
Mary grinned. Luke looked at the three of them, one at a time, and groaned.
You too, Vlad? That's it, I'm getting a beer.
He led the way back to down, muttering, as the others laughed and followed. The rooms in Crescent Lake's finest inn had been reserved for them long ahead of time. Each light warrior had a huge set of chambers to themselves, containing even things such as a stove, a bookshelf, and a fireplace. For obvious reasons, before their trip to Gurgu, the latter had been unused by Vlad. Now, though, late at night with all the others fast asleep, he removed his hat, stoked the flames until they were in full blaze, then held the orb of fire tightly, looking at them.
Can we talk?
He asked, as the element of fire's face slowly appeared in the leaping flames.
Of course.
She smiled.
I told you, anytime you want. Although I'm surprised you're not sleeping. It was nice,
Vlad admitted.
But I can't really think too clearly when that's going on, and I'd like to talk with you for a bit with my head clear. Fair enough.
Fire's eyes closed.
Hold on. Let me try something. This close to the volcano, I might be able to.
The flames grew, then erupted out in the shape of her human form, standing on the brick before the fireplace.
Good. Thought I could do that, but I wasn't sure. Just try not to ignite the carpet. Or the wood under it.
Vlad cautioned with a smirk.
The innkeeper likes us, and I'd like to keep it that way. I'll be good.
She winked.
For now, anyways. Now then. What did you want to talk about? You said that you and the others created us, to some extent. As the Light Warriors.
Vlad remembered.
And you were responsible for the prophecy, too, weren't you? Yes.
Fire admitted.
The four of us reached out, centuries into the future, and attempted to set into motion the downfall of our opposites. The prophecy was first. We saw who the sages would be, and sent the message to them. So as to make sure that nobody else would interfere with it, especially the fiends, we made it deliberately vague and confusing, but gave the sages enough time to figure it out. It's an old method, but a good one. I was wondering about that.
The Black Mage admitted.
It seemed like it would be easier to just say what was meant right out, but I suppose this way makes more sense now when I think about it that way. Indeed. And then we each looked for our champions.
The element continued.
We each decided the traits we would value the most in somebody who would hold our orbs, the physical symbols of who and what we are. For Earth, it was an underdog, somebody who didn't rely on their own strength but made themselves a hero through pure guts and an undying will. For Water, it was a truly positive view on the world, and a desire to help others, to aid in any way necessary. For Air, it was a leader who would hold the others up when they needed it, and stand by them against any opponent with courage and strength. And for me, a light warrior with wisdom and will, whose control of magic reflected a burning heart.
She paused.
And, if we're being absolutely honest, who liked blowing things up?
Vlad snickered at that.
I'll have to tell you about an incident with a puffer fish sometime, then.
He sobered.
Anyways. So, did you know exactly what every minute of my life would be like, or? No, not that detailed.
Fire shook her head.
For one, I had no idea what Carrie would do to you. If I could have seen that, I probably wouldn't have let myself get so caught up in preparing for you. It happens. That's over now.
Vlad shrugged it off.
And I certainly don't mind it now that it's you. But that does bring up another point. Now that you and Earth are back, can't you just tell us what to do clearly?
Fire winced.
I'd like to, but... Well, how to put this?
She thought for a moment.
All right. You know how when you first wake up, you have a weird, slow-minded feeling, and can't really think too well.
Vlad nodded.
Well, we've just been doing our equivalent of that for centuries. We can still manage the basic parts of our jobs and all that, and I still remember the prophecy, but the actual details of the rest of it are beyond me for now. I'm afraid I won't remember the specifics until I finish totally waking up, which won't be for a while. I can't even control all of my power yet. It's a bit of a slow process, but there's nothing I can do about it. It's okay.
The Black Mage assured her.
We've managed so far. We'll do so in the future too. I know you can.
Fire smiled.
Are you going to keep wearing that hat forever? You look fine without it, you know. I'm thinking about getting rid of it once my body recovers from all those years on below minimum sleep.
Vlad admitted.
I have gone through a pretty serious change in outlook to a lot of things recently. I should probably do something to reflect that.
He thought for a moment.
There was one more thing. Carrie. When she died, she said something about us becoming worse than them, more powerful. What was that all about? She was referring to how you were different from other humans.
The element explained.
Potentially, the threat does exist. You killed a fiend, twice. Admittedly, it was 4-on-1, and you had the orbs, but you still did it. As a group, you're stronger than any other mortals in existence. By the end of this, you will be individually as well. But I don't think it'll actually happen. What Carrie couldn't see was that all of you have parts of you, things in you, that will keep you from falling onto that path. None of you value power for its own sake. You only want it in order to uphold what is important to you. And as long as you keep those ideals as your first and foremost goal, that which Carrie wished for will never come to pass.
Despite her calming words, Fire's face was unhappy, strange. Almost as if afraid of something.
It won't, then.
Vlad decided.
I won't let that happen. Never. Promise me. Please.
Now the fear was evident in Fire's voice.
Promise me you'll never turn. I promise.
Vlad spoke firmly.
But... Tell me why. Something's wrong. I can tell. It's... that you can.
Fire looked away.
This is... I've never told a mortal before, but you...
She looked back, then buried her face in her hands.
It... happens to everybody with power. The lure, the thought of abusing it. But you can resist it. We... can't. We try, but we have to tamper a little here, change things a little there, and we can't put that behind us. It mounts up, and we start doing it more. Become corrupt. And turn into the fiends.
She looked up at him desperately.
We become them. We make them, make ourselves into them, and we can't stop ourselves no matter what we know of it. That's why I need you to promise me you won't do the same, Vlad. That you never will, that you'll always be with me, to help me. To help me hold Carrie back as much as possible, and to kill her again when she finally comes. Please. I need you. Help me.
All of the power and presence the element normally held was gone now, and she crouched before him in open pleading.
I already promised. And I'll do so again, as many times as you need me to.
Vlad stepped forward and embraced her without flinching, the flames that made her up never once searing him.
If you made me what I am, then you should know. That's part of me, the deepest part. My emotions. Anything I feel very strongly. And that includes what I feel for you, most of all. If it's for you, I can stand tall forever, without falling. And I'll purge Carrie, and bring you back to me, forever too. Thank you.
Fire whispered.
It was worth it, then. It was all worth it. Yes. It was.
Vlad agreed. After a few more moments, he stepped back.
On that note, I guess I should be getting to bed. We're hitting the ice cave tomorrow. Oh yes. The floater.
Fire nodded.
Be careful. Kraken and Tiamat will be getting worried now. It's likely they'll interfere. I'll see you in Dreamland.
The fire dimmed and went out, and Vlad soon fell asleep. And he dreamed. The trip through the river system to the ice cave was longer than the one to Gurgu had been. It took up the entire day, and the light warriors used a portable cabin outside to spend the night before going inside.
I'll use anti-ice here. We'll likely need it.
Mary told the others, covering them with silvery white crystalline shards.
There. Right, then.
Drake glanced at the deceptively simple-looking cavern before them.
No sense in putting it off anymore, then. In we go.
Inside, the tunnel quickly widened in all directions, becoming vast and deep and, above all, freezing. The stones did not glow, they were a dead gray, and Mary's modified lamp spell was needed to show them the way. When they finally reached the end of the hall, they turned a corner to stare into the eyes of the familiar faces belonging to the Wizards of Marsh. A lot of them this time. 7 to be exact.
Ah, not you guys again.
Luke growled, recovering first and slicing one in half, then blinking as all 6 others leveled their staffs and sent him flying. Before they could attack again, lightning bolts spread out and fried them all in one fell swoop.
Amateurs.
Vlad looked back at the fighter.
You okay? Nothing a healing potion or 2 couldn't fix. Or 3.
Luke grunted, downing them.
Right then. What do you suppose they're doing here? Well, they worked for Lich, right?
Drake shrugged.
Maybe they went over to another fiend after his death. Some people just can't do anything themselves.
Mary shook her head.
Right, let's keep going.
Continuing on, they went down the sloping halls beyond until they reached a fork. As they were about to choose one, Drake suddenly pulled them into the other.
Voices coming this way.
The elf hissed in explanation. Peering around the corner, the light warriors saw 3 more of the Wizards of Marsh, but altered ones. All color had faded from their bodies into a dead white, and the robes they wore were now a rich purple. Simultaneously, the eyes of all 4 light warriors went to the glittering drops of water embedded in the enemy's foreheads, glowing the same color as their robes.
Where the hell are those clowns?
One of them hissed.
They went up on patrol 10 minutes ago, they should be back by now. I'm telling you, it's the light warriors. They're here.
Another growled.
We'll find them, and then. He might be right, somebody's coming.
The first one noted. From the direction the light warriors had come, more humanoid figures advanced, not wizards this time, but 4 dark elves, though they were similarly transformed, pale white and grey. Their foreheads held not water, but green bits of cloud. The transformed wizards drew themselves up and glared.
Oh! You! Tiamat's pawns! Mages. Well, if it isn't some of Kraken's lackeys. Sorcerers.
One of the dark elves shot back.
Let me guess, you came here to try and head off the light warriors? Well, you can just head back home, then. We've got this covered. Is that so? But there's another issue here.
The sorcerers leveled their staffs.
A bunch of our less blessed buddies went missing, and in the direction you came from. Not too hard to guess what happened. I'm warning you, stay back.
The mage leader yelled, hurling a familiar white cube into the chest of one sorcerer. The rub spell took effect, and he pitched over, but the other two charged, uncaring.
You're warning us.
One laughed as their staffs smacked into the mage leader and another. Both froze, eyes wide, then fell over, stone dead. Laughing, the sorcerers rounded on the remaining two. One fell just as easily, but before a staff touched him, the last finished a spell of his own, and thousands of lightning bolts shot out of him, rapid fire, puncturing the two sorcerers. With one last effort, the leader tapped him with his staff, and all of them died.
Well,
Drake spoke after a few moments of awestruck silence.
This is suddenly going to take a lot longer. We're going to have to be very careful, to avoid those psychos at all costs. Both of them. With instant death spells that readily available, we do not want to fight these guys. Definitely. I'm not that good at reviving the dead. I can only do it a couple times without resting.
Mary agreed.
Let's be cautious.
Sneaking around carefully, dodging around corners and stalagmites, the light warriors continued downward, dodging enemies from both water and air. Unfortunately, the same could not be done for the monsters of ice. Wolves and giants, having absorbed the cave's magic, bore down on them with much more accuracy and had to be killed by swords and fire from Vlad. Eventually they walked into a room with two treasure chests in the back, one larger than the other. With a deep moat in the floor around them, far too wide for even Drake to jump.
It's gotta be in there.
Drake motioned the larger chest, then glared at the pit.
Of course, it can't be that easy. Any hope either of you knows a spell for levitating or flying or something? Sorry. No such luck.
Mary shook her head.
None I'd trust to get us across that. Closest thing is propulsion, like I used against Carrie, and this room ceiling is too low for that.
Vlad echoed.
Speaking of the ceiling. Check that out.
He indicated a hole in said ceiling, above the chests.
If that leads to an upper level, falling down it would bring us to the chest. So, we have to go back up there and find that.
Luke wondered.
No. The section of the cave we've been through so far never went above this room.
Vlad disagreed after some thought.
We'll probably have to drop down there, and then climb back up to ground level.
He indicated the pit. Drake looked down and winced.
About 10 feet. Won't kill us, but it'll be rough. At least I can't see any traps down there. If there's no other way.
Luke sighed.
Let me just check this out first.
In the smaller chest was a sword, the direct opposite of the one from Gurgu. This blade was red and gold, its crossguard a leaping flame.
Don't tell me. Flame enchanted. It'll come in handy against the ice monsters. Right, let's go.
Standing side by side at the edge of the trench, the light warriors jumped in, and landed with grunts of pain. It was only when they did that they saw the mass of undead before them. Wraiths and images, specters and geists, evil spirits in droves turned to glare.
Damnation!
Vlad began to cast a spell, but Mary held up a hand.
Wait. I've got this.
A globe of holy light appeared in her hands, too bright to look at directly, and floated forward before exploding like a miniature sun, only for a moment but long enough to melt the undead into nothingness. It faded, and the room was empty save for them.
New level of holy magic. Nice.
Drake whistled.
Sure cleaned this area up.
He walked forward, then jumped back, swearing.
Some kind of slush on the floor hurts to touch. This must be the bottom of the ice cave. The cold is worse down here. Even my anti-ice can't completely guard against it.
Mary realized.
We'll just have to walk through it fast.
Gritting their teeth, they forced their way through it to the end of the tunnel and through a door.
Looks like you were right, Vlad. There's a ladder going up.
Luke saw.
Weird statues next to it, though.
Drake began shaking.
Luke. I don't think those are statues.
The twin great reptiles, dragons of blue and white, ice and cold, slowly moved and glared at them.
You are the light warriors. Mistress Tiamat was right that you would come.
One hissed.
You made it this far. Well done.
The other agreed.
But now you shall die. Freeze and perish.
They both opened their maws, and blizzards erupted, burying all light warriors in ice. But in the white mass, something red was visible. A massive sphere of fire, that rushed through and melted the snow, slammed into the dragons and mashed them flat against the walls, screaming.
That won't be enough. Go.
Vlad yelled.
Right.
Luke drew his new fire sword, and Drake his trusty dragon sword, and they converged on one. Drake struck first, slicing into the armored neck, then jumping back. Even with the enchantment, he was unable to mortally cut through the ice dragon's throat. Luke's follow-up blow, though, aimed at the first cut, finished the job, and the dragon's head flew.
Not enough.
Its companion snarled, releasing its breath attack again.
We are dragonkin, foolish mortals. We do not die so easily.
Its voice broke off as another titanic fireball blew it to shreds.
Shows what you know.
Vlad grunted from under the snow.
But damn, this hurts. A little help here.
A red glow suffused the room, and the snow blanketing them all melted away into steam, warm but not painfully so.
There you go.
Fire's voice followed it.
Sorry, I can't do more. It's fine.
Mary began casting her healing spells.
I've got this part.
Once everybody was done, Luke looked down at the slain dragons.
Thought so. Just like that fire dragon.
Treasure chests were sitting below their feet, and like the sword he had found, they held opposites of the most valuable gear from Gurgu. A breastplate and a shield, both of ice.
Huh? Well, don't really need these now, since we're pretty much through with fighting fire. Keep 'em anyways.
Drake suggested.
You never know. We can just stow 'em on the ship.
Luke nodded and stuffed both into his pack.
Right, up the ladder we go.
Climbing, they reached another floor. More ice wolves and ice giants stalked them, but they were easier prey with the flame sword now in Luke's hands. At the end of the path, stairs led up, to daylight. And at the foot of said stairs, a hole.
It leads down to that chest, all right.
Drake looked down.
We'll have to go down, get it, jump in the moat again and climb all the way back up here a second time.
Luke winced.
Oh well, no helping it. Let's go.
They jumped down, then turned to look at the chest.
Right, let's pop that sucker open. I think not.
A voice hissed from above the chest. In the empty air, an eye appeared. An orb the size of their heads, it stared at them, and then a skull appeared around it, grey and mist-like, maw filled with fangs. Faded around the edges, it looked only partially real, but its danger was apparent.
Lord Kraken has sent me to kill you all. You will not gain the floater. I will stop you, here and now. Great, first the ones in charge of Tiamat's lackeys here, now Kraken's buddy.
Luke growled, staring at it fearlessly.
Well, we'll.
He trailed off, then pitched forward, lifeless.
What the hell?
Drake yelled.
Don't look at its eye. Don't.
Mary yelled, voice filled with fear.
That thing, that eye. It kills with visual contact. Well spotted.
The eye laughed.
But it won't be enough to save you. Probably won't have time to revive him here.
Mary realized, thinking out loud.
We'll have to kill it first. Drake, switch swords, it's magical. Huh. Oh, right. Almost forgot I had this.
Drake pulled the rune sword out from his pack.
Yo, Vlad, shot of fast please.
Green magic washed over his blade as he charged.
No problem.
The black mage followed with a spray of lightning that edged around Drake to strike the eye, forcing him off balance and leaving him open. The rune sword slashed at the leathery flesh around the skull, and the eye snarled.
Don't get cocky. I'm not that easily slain.
He stared at the thief, who did not meet his gaze, and with a thump Drake flew away, skidding across the floor and stopping just short of falling into the trench.
Ow! Something hit me.
He struggled back to his feet.
He can cast spells with his eye too.
Vlad growled, unleashing a fire blast.
Die, you freak!
He prepared to cast another spell, then froze, skin and robes turning grey. Hard. Stone.
Can you reverse that?
Drake asked Mary as he ran past the statue.
Because we're dead without both of them. No problem.
The white mage spilled a potion over Vlad, and he softened back to life, wincing.
Damn you! Does all your magic use vision? It took you this long to figure that out.
The eye laughed, then screamed as Drake's rapid strokes took its jaw off.
Welp, you'll pay for that what?
It gasped as a black cloud congealed around its optic.
What in? What did you do? Blind, of course.
Vlad snorted.
Can't see now. And with you, that means you're helpless. Drake. Oh yeah.
The elf took his time lining up the shot, then stabbed out, impaling the eye in one massive thrust and continuing on into the beast's brain. Shuddering and convulsing, it went limp.
I'll start reviving him, then.
Mary bent over Luke's body, while the thief and the black mage walked past their slain foe and opened the chest. Inside was a white rock, perfectly spherical, and faintly glowing. Drake picked it up, then blinked as his feet left the floor.
Whoa! Power core to an airship, nothing. This thing is incredible. What did he call it, the floater? If you'll allow me.
Vlad took the stone, and Drake immediately dropped.
As I thought. Only one at a time. Bah!
Drake shook his head.
Oh well, at least we can just go back up through that hole and get out of here quickly. Fair enough.
Vlad conceded as Luke sat up, groaning and rubbing his head.
Oh, my aching skull. Is the fight still going on, or oh?
He saw the dead eye, then the floater.
You guys won it without me, huh? Good job. Well, It wasn't a fiend or anything,
Mary reasoned.
Well then, shall we get out of here? Oh yes,
Vlad agreed fervently.
Never thought I'd be saying this a week ago, but I am seriously in need of some more heat. Dude, I do not want to know,
Drake muttered as the floater carried him up towards the cave's exit.
About time you got back,
Bicky hollered over the side of the amphitrite as the small canoe came downriver towards it.
All the monsters ve been scared off around here. We been forced to settle for fight in bushes and rocks and stumps. You're a maniac, Bicky,
Drake chuckled as the canoe pulled up.
No trees. Nah, sap takes forever to get off.
Bicky looked over the canoe and whistled.
Say, that thing's a beauty. Who ja steal it from? We didn't.
Mary shook her head, smiling despite herself.
The sages of Crescent Lake gave it to us. As a present? Right, a present, I got it.
Bicky nodded.
Law enforcement asks, we'll tell 'em that. Got it. But we should probably head off before they decide they want their present back, eh? Arg, never mind.
Luke hauled himself aboard by a rope, with the others behind him.
Yeah, sure, let's go. And don't rush it, might as well make the last trip enjoyable. Last trip?
Bicky frowned.
What, are you giving up or something? That ain't no way to get ahead, lad. No,
Drake assured him.
We whooped carry. It's just that we won't be needing to bother you anymore. Well, we'll explain on the way. You know where the Ryakan Desert is? That's what we want. Right, it's less than a day south o' here.
Bicky shrugged, frowning.
Well, whatever. You're the bossman. Pull up the anchor, lads, and try not to lodge it in the dock this time. Yeah, the guys at Crescent might be just a bit irritated about that.
Drake chuckled as he helped some of the pirates haul the canoe aboard.
Anyways, here's how it goes. You've been around for a while, heard all kinds of stories, right? Ever hear any about an airship? You kiddin', son? That's the first one I ever heard, back when I was cabin boy on old Captain Greenskin's ship.
Bicky grinned.
Good times, when I wasn't catchin' stuff to the head. But yeah, I heard all those stories bout the Leffinish. Almost believed 'em too, when I was a brat, but there's no way. Wait.
The light of realization slowly dawned.
Are you seriously telling us you're going to get an airship?
Mr. Smite blinked as he tied the canoe down to the deck.
That's stretching belief a bit far, fellas. Although, I have to admit.
He glanced at Bicky, who nodded.
If anybody could, it'd be you fellas.
The old pirate captain harumphed.
And if you do, you sure won't be needin' this old tub no more, that's for certain. We've had some good times, haven't we?
Drake leaned against the rail, watching a couple pirates roll out a barrel.
And we didn't even get arrested once. Yeah, that was a nice change.
Bicky sighed.
Gotta admit, I'll miss you crazy kids. Funny thing is, we might not actually be doing much in the way of your whole hero act, 'cept sailin' and waitin' around, but I haven't been tempted to go back to the old pirate act even once. You've gone and rubbed off on me, fellas. That was mighty unkind of you. You have our full apologies.
Vlad snorted.
Would it help if I admitted to feeling an urge to get in a bar fight recently? A bar fight with magic? Now that's just mean.
Mr. Smite winced.
Broken stools and smashed merchandise are one thing, but what the hell is mare? Can? Whatever you said,
Bicky demanded of his first mate.
Look at you, you're getting a freakin' vocabulary off of them.
He paused.
I'm doing it too. Arg. Let's just have some drinks before this gets worse.
Luke opened the barrel and dipped out a mug.
It ain't a good farewell without them, right? Just don't have too much. I'd prefer it if we actually made it to the Ryakan in one piece.
Mary sighed.
Well, then, we're lucky you're here to keep an eye on us, aren't we?
Drake grinned cheekily as he took a mug for himself.
Be careful, or she might join in just to spite you.
Vlad warned, doing so himself.
Ah. That's the good stuff.
Bicky downed his mug in one go and took a refill.
So, where you headed after this, anyways? Well, seems the fellas on the Cardia Islands want to have some words with us. And not in the bad way.
Drake reflected.
More like the free loot way. After that, it's to unrack. Give Kraken what he's got coming to him. Sounds like a party, all right.
Bicky looked up at the clouds.
Cardia, never been there. Not even we're nuts enough to try lootin' and pillagin' from dragons. Onrak, though? That's the opposite. It's me homeland, you know? Been a while since I've been back, though.
He glanced at the canoe.
You'll want to be takin' that baby with ya, for sure. Just in case the airship ain't perfect. When you do, watch out. The water monsters are the toughest ones around up there, as you might have guessed.
The trip down to Ryakan took the rest of the day, but it still seemed too fast. As the sun set, they dropped the anchor in a secluded inlet and headed ashore. For once, the pirates all accompanied them, claiming to want to see this with their own eyes.
All right, time to take this out.
Mary removed the floater from her pack, covered in thick cloth enough to dampen its effects on the holder. Now she unwrapped it, and the pirates blinked as she began to rise.
The sages said when we get near it, it should start responding to its other half. Aha!
She dropped to the ground, and the stone began glowing white.
Got it! This way.
After a few more minutes walking in the indicated direction, the ground suddenly began to shake.
This is it, then. Get down.
Following her advice, pirates and light warriors both hurled themselves to the sand as it began rising up in massive clouds around them, as something massive came up from beneath the earth, displacing the ancient sands covering it as it came. After a few minutes, it subsided, and those present pulled themselves up, cleared the sand from their faces, and looked upon the world's last airship.
Holy hell!
Luke was the only one who could speak, staring up at the vessel of the skies that was now sitting on the Ryakan desert as if it had only been parked there a short time ago. The base model was a ship similar to the Amphitrite in both size and appearance, but in place of the sails, huge propellers towered over them. Additional modifications had been made to the rails and cabins, and clawed feet allowed it to rest on land without tipping over. The final piece of the image was complete as the sand blew away from the nameplate on the ship's side, Icarus.
I'd say just seeing that alone was worth the ice cave, let alone owning the damn thing.
Vlad shook his head.
The fiends don't know what they've got coming to them. We've won our wings. I'd say so.
Mary agreed, then glanced at Bicky and the other pirates, who were staring with slack jaws.
What do you think, guys? Now that's what I call a ship.
Bicky recovered first.
Never thought I'd see something that'd make me give up the seas. But I guess there's no such thing as impossible.
He suddenly grinned at them.
So? Do any of you know how to work this one? How are we supposed to do that?
Drake shot back without thinking.
I guess we'll just have to. Wait. Wait. Are you saying you haven't a clue?
Vicky admitted cheerfully.
But I figure once the damn thing gets started, we'll probably be able to handle her better than you fellas. We do have a certain amount of experience in the profession.
Mr. Smite agreed, grinning as well. One by one, the other pirates followed suit.
You know, I really should have expected this.
Vlad chuckled.
Somehow, I never really figured you for the type to bow out of the trip halfway through. Hell no, son. We're in for the haul.
Vicky backflipped theatrically and did a kick.
Sides, I still owe Kraken for a typhoon when I was 30. Looks like this baby will take us all, and me'll amphitrite nice and snug in that cove. Why the hell not? The more the merrier, I guess.
Mary agreed.
Well, Luke. Why are you asking me?
The fighter complained.
We already all know what we're gonna do. Because you're fearless leader.
Drake explained with a perfectly straight face.
It's a formality. These things have to be done the right way. Aren't fearless leaders supposed to get pay raises?
Luke muttered before giving in.
All right, everybody. And that means all of you. Are we gonna stand around here all day, or are we gonna board that thing and take it to the sky? Damn straight.
Vicky cheered as they began to climb dangling ropes onto the Icarus.
Watch your ass, Kraken. The Light Warriors and company are coming for you. Arg har 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 har.
End of chapter.